ladies and gentlemen, attendees and participants, and welcome to the February 8th, 2022 meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Una Johnson,
Brett Feldman,
Dustin Pastor,
Lynn Hertak, Sam Decker.
Aaron Murphy.
also in attendance this evening. We have, we have Simone Savino from Legal, from Development Coordination. We have Jane Madu and Eileen Rosario from Natural Resources. We have Scott Eister, and from Transportation we have Jonathan Scott. There are some procedural rules you need to follow. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, please adhere to safe social distancing as set within the room. Please maintain wearing a face mask at all times. When your case number and petitioner's name is called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and if you have been sworn in. The petitioner and or their agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons or participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will have an additional 3 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods, as stated, will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not been previously submitted as part of your petition and that you intend to present at this hearing for consideration in support of your petition must individually be presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is presented and which meets the criteria required by the city's Code of Ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. A variance granted by the board will be only for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms and conditions stated in the approval by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of the decision. If the case is continued, it will be continued to either next month's VRB board agenda or to the next available position on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the variance review board's decision appealed by the city council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 14 days of the written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until after the 14-day review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion from one of the board members to approve last month's meeting minutes?
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes, say aye. Any opposed? All right, the meeting minutes pass. At this time, I will ask legal staff to please confirm whether there are any ex parte communications or conflicts among the board members.
Good evening, Board. Simone Savino on behalf of the legal department. Does anyone present have, if you've had a chance to look through tonight's agenda, does anyone have a conflict of interest or have had any ex parte communications with the applicants? If so, I will provide you with a disclosure form. Seeing none. Thank you.
All right. I will direct staff. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Well then, let's go ahead and do the swearing in. At this time, I will ask a staff member to please conduct the swearing for members of the audience. If there's a chance that you might speak this evening, if there is the possibility that you might be speaking this evening, I would ask that you please stand and be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you may have a seat now.
Good evening once again to the board. Jane Madu with Development Coordination. The first case before the board is, apologies before we get into that, the way that we have structured the agenda for today is that we're taking the Spanish cases first, then we take the 3 cases and then proceed with other cases. So the first 2 cases are Spanish speakers, and there's a translator that's here to interpret on their behalf. So So the first case is VRB 2207. The property owner is O'Neill Amaran. I'm not about to butcher the name. The property is addressed at 1207 West Hall Place. It is zoned as RS50 residential single family. And the variance request before the board this evening is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 17 feet. And this is for an existing rear porch. The code reference in the code section in reference is section 27-156C, which references the setback requirements for the RS50 district, 20 feet in front, 20 in the rear, 7 on the side, 7 on the corner. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It's a pie-shaped lot, highlighted in bright. Okay, thank you. This is the property in question, and it's showing the existing home and the addition, the patio that was added onto the residence. This is a up-close view of that addition, showing what the existing setbacks are currently at 17 feet opposed to the 20 feet. And on the other side, of course, is 33, but on one side it's 17, so inconsistent. Natural Resources reviewed it and found it inconsistent. Transportation review was not required. And right away found it consistent with conditions that there is an existing 10-foot public easement utility and a 7.5 feet drainage easement on the south side of the parcel. However, the work that the applicant is doing does not encroach into these easements. So there is no conflict at this point with the proposed, with the patio. Natural Resources had comments that it looks like there have been about 7 trees removed without documentation. And they have requirements for what the applicant would need to do and the penalty for removing trees without permit. These are pictures that the applicant has provided showing that patio and the existing conditions. And in the determination of the variance request before you, the board would consider section 27-80, the criteria for approving a variance request. Staff would be available for any questions.
I have one question before you
Sure.
go. Is the setback, is this in relation to the vertical structure or the slab? Do you
To
know?
the vertical structure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, applicant. I'm going to go slow since I know you've got a translator. We're going to ask that you, when you come to the podium, you state your name, your address, and confirm for us that you have been sworn in. And then you will have 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Mi nombre es O'Neill Amaran Guanche. Mi dirección es 1207 West Hall Place, Tampa FL 33604.
My name is
And you've
Anila
been
Mara-
sworn in? Can you confirm that you've been sworn in, please?
¿Y usted ha sido juramentado ya?
Sí,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Onila Marin Guanche, 1207 West Hall Place, Tampa, Florida 33604. Bueno, siga para acá.
Okay, please proceed. You have 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Por favor, haga su presentación. Si tiene algo que presentar aquí, lo puede poner acá para que ellos vean.
Ok. Bueno. ¿Puedo decir algo?
El señor le dijo, tiene 10 minutos para decir.
Primero que nada, pedir disculpas por lo sucedido. He estado tratando de hacer todo lo posible, por hacer todo lo más correctamente posible.
Sorry about what has happened here. I have been trying to do what is correct.
Más que nada lo que me ha sucedido es que como no sé nada de eso, es mi primera casita, mi primera casa, y estoy desorientado, entonces estoy tratando de hacerlo lo más...
This is my first house and I am not aware of all the rules, so I'm trying to do the best I can.
Con respecto al tema de todo lo que es el diseño, todas esas cosas, mandé a hacer con una compañía el surveys, todo eso.
Regarding the survey, I did contract with the company to do the survey.
Y con el tema de los árboles, aquí traigo, un amigo me contrató una compañía, fue un inspector, y esto fue lo que me dieron. Y mediante esto fue que ellos trabajaron.
Okay. And regarding the trees, a friend of mine referred me to a tree company, and this is what the inspector for the tree company gave me, and I have it right here with me.
Okay. If you have anything you want to submit, you can give it to staff and
Si
they
usted
will.
tiene algo que necesita
take that
entregar
and
para
make sure it's part of the
presentarlo,
record.
usted necesita entregárselo a los empleados para que esto sea parte del registro.
Se lo doy a
Sí.
ellos.
¿Tú qué? A la señora.
That may be part of the record already.
I was gonna say Simone Savino, Assistant City Attorney.
Okay.
It might have been submitted. If you would like the visual, we can add it to the Elmo so that everyone can see right now.
Okay.
Would that be
If-
appropriate?
If it's something you want to talk about, you can put it up on the big screen.
No.
No, no.
¿Usted quiere hablar sobre eso o simplemente quiere presentarlo?
No, solamente presentarlo porque no sé qué decir.
I just wanted to present it to you because I'm not so sure what I would say.
Okay. So, and I'm going to say this to you, but also just in case there's anyone in the audience or any of the upcoming presentations that
Sobre
need
alguna
to
presentación
address
que
this.
necesitan hacer.
We're
Nosotros
not so concerned about apologies or trying to make, fix any mistakes that were made. What we're trying to figure out is what your hardships are so that we can try and grant what you're asking us to
las
do.
dificultades que usted tiene, por las cuales usted solicitó este proceso.
And so what we have to understand is the hardships associated with your property, not the financial hardships
No las dificultades
that
económicas que usted tenía.
impact what it is that you did and what changes may be made, but the hardships based upon the property that explain why you need to build what you built in the way that you built it and why it impacted into the setbacks.
Esto ha sido edificado de esta manera y por la cual usted está haciendo esta solicitud.
Okay.
Okay.
La primera vez fue por el tema del COVID, la primera vez que estuve acá, que no había llegado el survey, ya se había mandado a hacer y entre alguna cosa y otra se demoró.
The first time that I was here, it had to do with the time that we were going through COVID and the survey was delayed due to that. Siga, señor.
Okay.
Días después llegó todos los documentos, los presenté al caso y cuando fueron a revisar los documentos hubo problema con las medidas.
Once the documents were presented, it appeared there were problems. When the review was done, there were problems with the measurements.
Se venció el plazo que la señora jueza me había dado porque tuve que pedir entonces este otro permiso adicional y bueno, el tiempo es lo que ha ido transcurriendo.
And the time limit that it was given to me expired, that the judge had granted me prior to that. So I did have to request another permission to return here and speak to you.
Que de verdad me siento muy avergonzado por esta situación porque no me da pena porque no sé por qué por estas cosas que han pasado así, que no quisiera que estuviera pasando esto.
I am very embarrassed about the situation that is happening here, and I'm sorry that this has gone this way.
Y discúlpame por lo del idioma. Sorry.
And I'm sorry about the language issue.
No worries, nothing we
No
can
se
do about the
preocupen.
language
Thanks,
issue.
No podemos hacer nada sobre el idioma.
And you're not the first person to come
Usted no
before
es la
us
primera persona que
who's
viene con a
made a
nosotros
mistake and built something without permits.
para edificar algo.
And I understand now that you were here before, you got a survey, you
Que
came
usted
back,
ya
right?
hizo su mapa.
And
Usted
so,
regresó.
if you wouldn't mind,
Si usted
the
puede,
board
por favor.
composition may be different from the last time you were before us. Can you explain to us the
¿Puede usted
hardships
decirnos
so that we
las
can, again,
dificultades que
try
usted ha
and
tenido
give you what
por
it
las
is
que
that you're
usted está
asking for?
pasando esta solicitud
So
para que
we
nosotros
understand that
podamos
it's a
entender la
pie-shaped
situación?
lot, irregular shaped.
Sí, había una estructura irregular.
Can you just give us a little understanding about
Explíqueme por
why
qué
you need to move
usted-
into the
porque usted
setback?
necesita
If you can explain that,
moverse
show us on the
dentro
survey
del
the
setback,
basis
dentro
of
del
that. That will help us
La
to understand
razón
what
por
it
la
is that you're
cual
asking.
usted está peticionando que se reduzca el área delimitada. ¿Por qué está peticionando eso?
No, porque el porche que hice, al estar en una rotonda, en un lado está bien amplio y en el otro lado como que sigue la constitución de la casa, como que se achica. Entonces me dieron la opción en la oficina del departamento de la ciudad que podía hacer esta petición. Por eso fue que hice la petición.
Well, as I understand it, the porch that I made has an area that is much larger, and the option that the department gave me was to come back here and request this type of setback.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to explain to us now in your presentation, or perhaps we can
¿Hay algo
close it
más que
and
usted
talk
quiera
about questions?
explicar o nosotros necesitamos discutir esto entre nosotros?
No.
Okay, so
Thank
that,
you. Gracias.
No, thank you.
that concludes your presentation then?
Bueno, ya concluyó su presentación, puede coger sus documentos.
Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up for questions. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak about this application, now's your chance.
Si alguien más quiere hablar sobre esta aplicación,
Seeing none, does the board have any questions for the applicant this
lo
evening?
que se les presentó acá sobre la solicitud.
I just have one question.
Tengo una
If-
pregunta.
If we were to grant this, would you agree to never enclose the porch with real walls?
¿Usted no cerraría el porche con paredes?
No.
No.
Would he agree to not do that?
¿Usted estaría de acuerdo a no hacer eso?
No. Sí, yes, correcto.
Yes, correct.
Other questions?
O sea que no puede cerrar el porche.
Just for clarification, he has a larger porch that he was going to put the
Un
screened
porche
enclosure on the
grande.
whole porch,
Usted iba a cerrar,
but you reduced the size because
pero usted
you knew about
redujo
the setback.
el tamaño, porque usted se dio cuenta de lo que se llama para ellos la reducción delimitada, ¿correcto?
Correcto.
And it was laid out by the contractor in the wrong position.
Y el contratista lo colocó de la manera errónea. Él lo delineó de la manera errónea, el contratista.
Lo hice
Lo
yo.
hizo el señor.
Sí, no, eso lo hice yo. Yo fui el que lo hice con...
I was the one that did that.
Okay, thank you.
Yo voy con eso.
Okay, any other questions?
Can you explain what you meant when you said that the survey was wrong initially, or that you mentioned some dimensions were wrong?
Dígame una cosa sobre el plan que se envió, el survey. ¿Qué pasó con el plan? Inicialmente usted nos dijo que el plan se envió después. ¿Cómo fue la cosa?
Cuando contraté una compañía
When I contracted a company for this,
que me recomendó un amigo con respecto a este tema, las corridas de niveles, un survey. Para
when,
que-
when a friend referred me to a company to do the survey,
para así agregar lo que había hecho recientemente, porque ya,
to add what I have done recently,
y entonces ya ellos fueron los que hicieron todo el proceso de mediciones y de,
they were the ones that did all the measurements and all the process.
y así fue como lo entregué. Pero
That's how I turned it in.
cuando vine la primera vez acá, no estaba, no había llegado todavía.
But the first time that I came here in person, we didn't have the survey then.
Por los apoyos días que me dieron, no
Because of
coincidió.
the appointments did not coincide when for the timing of the survey arriving.
Perhaps staff, Ms. Madhu, could you, is there some explanation you might be able to give to help us understand, was this applicant before us once before and then we had to reschedule it because the timing didn't work? Or did the applicant just not have all the paperwork in the first time through?
Not to my recollection, and sometimes I think that because there are several, because this applicant does have some code cases, so sometimes they kind of
Blend, okay.
take one to be the other, but not to my recollection, he hasn't come before the Variance Review Board before.
Okay,
This would be his first appearance.
all right. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? All right, sure, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal. If there's anything else you want to share with us, any responses to the questions we asked, or additional information about what you're asking for, the hardships.
Para nosotros, para que usted nos indique a nosotros qué dificultades tiene usted debido a la petición que usted está solicitando. ¿Quiere decir algo más?
¿Qué quiere decir con eso que le digo? No sé, con respecto a que no.
I'm not so sure. Sorry. Off the record for a second. The word hardships, the difficulties that he may have, I think he's having a hard time with the context, but I cannot explain that to him.
Yeah, so I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
So
Vamos a explicarle.
the hardship is very often misunderstood by people who come before us. It doesn't mean that it's difficult to make a change to what you've done. It doesn't mean that it's going to cost you money to remove or replace or change it. It means that there's something about the property itself that requires you, either the existing home or the shape of the property or other objects on the property that require you to put the structure into the space that you've placed it in here. So you're asking us to reduce your setback from 20 feet to 17 feet. It would help us to understand why you need that 3 feet more so than just, I built it into there and oops.
Lo que tenemos que entender es por qué usted está peticionando que le reduzcamos de 20 a 17. Eso es todo. Cuando él dice dificultad.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Bueno, primero que nada, economía, porque si usted decide que debo quitarlo, yo lo quito sin ningún problema.
First of all, financial issues. If you decided that I have to remove this, I'm going to remove it.
Lo que no quiero es más problemas y
I don't want any more problems.
hacer las cosas bien. Solamente
I want to do things right.
que eso me traería como consecuencia, además de la economía, el tema del surveys pienso yo, debería ser un nuevo surveys con nuevas medidas, con nuevo y reestructurar todo.
But the other thing besides the financial difficulties is that the survey will change. Then I would have to do a new survey to adjust for the changes.
Habría que cambiar una serie de todo.
I would have to change everything.
You want to give it a shot? Sure.
Okay, esta se está preguntando, so our dialects are different, hers and mine are different.
Okay.
Simone Savino, Assistant City Attorney, sorry. When we're working with an interpreter, I don't believe we can speak unless we're speaking, the interpreter is the one doing the interpretation. That's just
What
how.
if she were to discuss it with the interpreter?
And what are you trying to explain? Just the rule itself?
Yes, the explanation. Perhaps you want to give it a shot at explaining the rule to,
Yeah, and well, if you don't mind, I'd rather just do it to the I can explain to the interpreter. The rule that we go by, that this board follows for every case they hear, it's 27-80. And it's the rule that I believe staff told the applicant about when they created their application to come to the board tonight.
El reglamento que tenemos aquí pendiente es el reglamento 27.80 y es el reglamento al cual nosotros nos basamos para que ustedes vengan aquí a pasar su solicitud.
It's on the application itself. It
Está
should have been
en la
explained
solicitud en
when the
sí
application
mismo.
was created.
Cuando usted pasó solicitud,
And the
ahí
rule
dice,
goes through all the
en la
criteria
regla,
he
el
should be
reglamento,
presenting to the board.
el reglamento
That's
dice
what they can
específicamente
consider
todo
when
el
evaluating
el criterio que usted
a variance
o puede
request.
presentarlo para poder pasar esta solicitud sobre el reducir el delineamiento.
And it's on the application that I believe he has a copy of. Is that correct,
Está
Jane?
en la solicitud que usted pasó.
Simone, can I address the applicant? Can I address the applicant? No? Well, through the, we've always talked through the translator, so I'm not sure. Just because there's a way that I kind of interpret the hardship to the applicants in the way that they understand, and I was just going to try to jog his memory because we had that conversation. I'm not sure that he remembers.
I was gonna say, and Simone Savino, on behalf of legal staff, has just explained that she did express this to the applicant at the time of the application.
Cuando ella le habló a usted,
So I can address him?
sobre
No?
qué dificultades usted iba a tener si el fallo se lo dan diferente, si usted tiene que cambiar, si ellos nos aceptan la petición. La señora dice que ella le explicó a usted el fallo de ellos cuando ellos lleguen a la decisión.
Que ella me explicó, no recuerdo, sorry, no sé qué decir, no entiendo qué tengo que explicar, no sé.
I'm not so sure exactly what else I need to explain.
all right, so we have your application, we have your statement of hardships on the
Yo
application.
tengo su solicitud sobre las
page,
dificultades en la página
The third to last page of your application has the statement of hardships.
tercera, antes de la última página, en su solicitud. ¿Usted lo tiene ahí? Su solicitud.
But all it says is that it is an irregular shaped lot. So is there anything else that you want to explain to us,
Simplemente dice
or
que hay una
not, we're
forma
just gonna have to move
irregular,
forward?
y por eso es que usted está necesitando esta
Pero
reducción.
So, I have a question that may help.
Tengo una pregunta que tal vez pueda ayudarle a que
is-
lleguemos a un punto aquí.
Is there a reason you put this porch
Con la que usted
where
puso
you
este
did
techo donde
instead of
está
somewhere else?
en vez de en otro lugar?
por supuesto,
Yes, of
porque
course.
la casa no tenía porche.
Because the
Era-
house didn't have a porch.
Tengo una bebé pequeña de 1 año,
I have
y
a small child that is a year
necesito el
old,
porche.
and I need a porch.
But is there a reason that you put it where you did instead of like on the side? or-
ponerlo en un lado lateral.
Why did you put it
Porque usted lo
in the
puso
spot that you
en
put it?
ese lugar exactamente donde usted lo puso.
No lo puse en los lugares laterales porque al hacer la casa estar en una rotonda y quedar esquineado, como me está pasando ahora, en los laterales hubiese sido peor, hubiese sido algo y la otra forma, porque es la parte trasera de la casa. Ese es lo más correcto.
The correct thing is to put it on the rear back of the house, and I could not do it on the sides of the house because there is a round area, rotunda, there's a round area, it's on the roundabout, and I could not put it there on the corners. So I had to go on the rear of the house.
Okay, all right, so just for formality's sake, you still have 3 minutes for rebuttal if there's anything else you'd like to add.
¿Hay algo más que usted quiera decir?
No? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. With that, we will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board or discussion if necessary. So do I have a motion or is discussion needed?
Okay, no problem.
Well, although not enumerated to us very clearly, I think the comment on the application is the most relevant, which is the irregular shaped lot. Because on the, well, we'll just say the right side of the plan that we're looking at, the porch is 20 feet from the property line, and on the left side it's not, because of the orientation and shape of the lot. Now, it was not elaborated to us by the applicant, but we can see it very clearly here, and that is what was written on the application. So I understand the hardship in that regard. And then, you know, Lynn asked why here. Obviously, the rear is the most logical place on a lot this shape because there's not really no other place to put it, which is basically what he said. So, you know, that's my interpretation of what we're seeing and reading more than what we, you know, are hearing.
I agree with what Mr. Pastor said, and so with that, I will make a motion. I move that variance request for case VRB 22-07 located at 1207 West Hall Place, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing, for a reduction of the setback reduced from 20 feet to 17 feet, with the following conditions: that the porch enclosure never be enclosed with non-transparent walls. That said variance as conditioned be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is unique and singular with respect to this property as it's a pie-shaped lot. It's located on a cul-de-sac, and the tilt of the house as evidenced by the survey in the public record and the applicant's statement is, you know, kind of catty corner, and accordingly, this is a unique property.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, the petition passes. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next.
The next case before the board is VRB 2218. This is addressed at 1701 North Alexander Road. The property owner is Yonis del Carmen Riera. And the variance request is to reduce the side yard setback for an accessory structure from 7 feet to 3.7 feet. This is zoned RS 60 residential single family 60. And for the code section in reference is section 27-290 that addresses the
setbacks for accessory structures, 60 feet from the front, 3 feet from the side, 3 feet from the rear, and 7 feet for the corner. This is a corner lot, so the setbacks for corners does apply. This is also for a work without permits. It's an after-the-fact application. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It's on the corner of North Alexander Street and West Alexander Drive. This is the site plan showing the subject property, and the addition is this is the new addition, the accessory structure. It is a storage, it's basically for storage, an accessory structure for storage for the single family residence. This is what the floor plan of that accessory structure looks like, as provided by the applicant. And those are the elevations. Natural resources, transportation, and right-of-way reviewed and found it consistent. Natural resources found it consistent with conditions that all the landscape technical codes would be met at the time of permitting. And for the determination of the variance request before the board shall consider section 27-80 for the criteria for the approval of a variance request, and staff shall be on hand if there are any additional questions.
You might have the same
okay.
question.
I have some questions. So, was there any permits pulled for this?
She has a permit in an active permit for this accessory structure. However, because they do not meet the setback requirements, she has to apply for a variance.
Oh, interesting. Just a little plan you just showed, they look very small. Isn't there a minimum size required to need a permit? I assume they exceed that. Can't you build like 150 square feet without a permit?
Yes, you could.
This might be big.
And I believe that they exceed that,
Yeah, confirm.
and therefore they need to comply.
Okay. All right, thank you.
It's not attached to the main structure, it's separate.
It's separate.
Okay. But is it the size that's triggering the setback issue, or?
No, so for accessory structures that are on a corner lot, the corner setback is 7.
So it's purely because it's a corner lot?
Correct.
I understand.
Yes,
Thank you.
so if this was an interior lot, it would be at 3 feet.
Thank you.
Other quick question. What's the required separation between an accessory structure and a principal structure?
It's 5 feet eve to eve.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, applicant, when you come on up, you'll state your name, your address, and you'll tell us that you've been sworn, and then you'll have 10 minutes to make a presentation.
Actually, does she need the site plan up? Does she need me to leave the site plan up?
Si quiere. If you want to.
Su nombre, su dirección y si usted ha sido juramentada, por favor.
Mi nombre es Joanny del Carmen Riera Baldoquín. Mi dirección es 1701 North Alexander Road, Tampa, Florida 33603.
My name is, ¿y ha sido juramentada?
Y he sido juramentada.
Yes, my name is Joanny del Carmen Riera Baldoquín. My address is 1701 North Alexander Road, Tampa, Florida 33603, and I have been sworn in.
Usted tiene 10 minutos máximos para decirnos qué es lo que usted está peticionando.
Estoy peticionando que por que sometí una aplicación para hacer Estoy en un proceso de hacer adiciones a mi casa y dentro de ellos un storage, pero que en revisión con el departamento de la ciudad de Tampa se detectó de que por estar en un área que es una esquina, la separación que hay dentro del límite y lo que queremos, lo que estamos haciendo está muy pequeño y lo que exige la ciudad de Tampa es 7 y nosotros tenemos 3.5.
Okay, 3.5?
O 3.7.
So we submitted the application. We are in a process in this case, and it's regarding a storage area. Since the city of Tampa, the Department of the City of Tampa asked us to do a revision, they detected that the area on the corner, the limit between the separation of what we're building is less than 7 feet. It's 3.7 feet. So that's why we are asking for the reduction of the setback from the required 7 feet to the 3.7.
Es por ello que haciendo una revisión con la ciudad de Tampa nos aconsejaron que debíamos hacer este proceso de variance y someter esta petición a ustedes para determinar qué podemos hacer, qué es lo más aconsejable que se puede hacer para hacer las cosas dentro de la ley.
This is the reason why with the city of Tampa we agreed that a revision had to be done, and they advised us to go through this process of the variance petition, and this is what I submitted the petition to do because we want to do what is correct and within the law.
Espero que tomen la mejor decisión tanto para la ciudad como para nosotros porque no queremos tener problemas con nada y hacer las cosas como tienen que ser.
We hope that you make the best decision for the city and as well as for us.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Did you want to talk at all about
¿Usted quiere
the
decir
placement, why it
algo?
had to be placed
¿Por
on
qué
this
se colocaron
part of the house instead of on the back of the house? I mean, we can look at your survey and we can see things, but it would help us to make this decision if you could explain to us why it needs to be here and why it needs to be this size and why it needs to cut into the setback.
Si usted explicara por qué ahí y por qué de este tamaño.
Bueno, pensamos que ese era el mejor sitio porque en el otro lado tenemos otro sitio, pero que queremos hacer, después someter una petición para hacer una piscina. Por eso pensamos que ese era el mejor sitio.
We thought that this was the best area because if we did it on the other side, we would like to submit a petition eventually for a swimming pool.
Okay, is that all you have to present to us this evening?
¿Eso es todo lo que tiene que presentarnos esta noche?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition.
¿Alguien en la audiencia que quiere hablar sobre esta petición?
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience? Yes, sir. Come on up, if you wouldn't mind, if you could make way for this gentleman. All right, if you would please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name's Brad McIntyre. I live at 1706 South Alexander Road. And these two structures have been there for several years now. There was no permits that I saw. There's also been some things that have been done on the property which I feel needed permits that were not done. One of those was big limbs on oak trees being cut down. Another is that it appears, well, they've put up a fence now, so you can't really tell, but the back of the house has been added to. So I have concerns that these permits were not pulled for the work that's already been done. And I don't see why these structures need to be there in the first place. And as opposed to the east side of the house, they park their semi there. So I don't see how they can put a swimming pool there in the future. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition this evening? All right, seeing none, let's open it up for board questions. Anyone on the board have a question?
Let's go back to the permit. Was there drawings submitted to the city and a building permit issued to construct this work?
¿Y ustedes pasaron un permiso a la ciudad para esta construcción? ¿Ustedes habían pasado un permiso para esta construcción?
Sí, estamos haciendo el proceso ese de permiso.
We are in the process of doing the permit.
Dentro del proceso ese que estamos haciendo para todas las estructuras que estamos haciendo en la casa, surgió que teníamos que hacer un variance para esa parte de ahí.
Within the process of the permits, that's how the issue arose, that we had to request a variance for the structure that we are discussing.
So no permit has been issued because it's pending the outcome of this hearing.
El permiso está en proceso.
The permit is in process.
Okay. Next question. One of these two structures is crossing the 7-foot line. Why can it not just be moved 3 feet closer to the house?
¿Por qué ustedes no lo pueden mover 3 pies más cerca de la casa?
Or built 3 feet smaller?
O quitarle o reducirle 3 pies.
Si esa es la decisión que ustedes creen que es lo más sensato, nosotros lo hacemos.
If that's the decision that you need to make, then we will do it.
Well, the reality is if you did that, you don't need a variance.
La realidad es que si usted hiciera eso, usted no necesitaría una modificación.
So if this is not favorable to you, then I think that would be your only option if this ruling doesn't.
Si esto no sale favorable a usted, entonces eso sería la única solución en esta situación.
Okay, no hay problema.
Okay.
Nosotros haremos lo que ustedes decidan, que es lo que realmente hay. Si ustedes deciden lo que ustedes decidan es lo que vamos a hacer.
Okay, no problem. What you're going to decide is what we're going to have to do.
I have a question. So there is a statement on your application that says this is not a self-created hardship, that the home was like this when you purchased it. Can you clarify that? Did this structure exist when you purchased the home?
Cuando ustedes compraron la propiedad?
No, la estructura no estaba cuando compramos la propiedad.
No, the structure wasn't there when we bought the property.
Okay, so when was it built? How many years ago?
¿Cuándo usted lo edificaron?
Talking about the storage structure, the side.
Solamente estamos hablando de la caseta, ¿no? Siento del storage, solamente eso.
entre el 2019 y 2020.
Between 2019 and 2020,
Okay.
Nosotros compramos la propiedad 24 de abril del 2019.
we bought the property on April the 24th of 2019.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have questions?
¿Alguien más tiene alguna otra pregunta?
Go ahead.
Question. Why did you put the structures in the different places? I guess, why is the one further from the house there? Did you have a reason to put it there and not closer to the house, next to the other one?
¿Por qué razón usted colocó la estructura, ha colocado las estructuras en diferentes lugares y esa estructura está más lejos de la casa? ¿Por qué razón lo hizo? ¿Por qué no lo hizo más cerca de la casa?
Porque el propósito es un storage, no es para que forme parte como tal de la casa, sino es para un storage.
Because the purpose is to have the shed as a storage, separate from the house, not as a part of the house.
Yes, but you have the one above and then the one below. One is closer, one is further away. Why is the one that's further away further away?
¿Por qué la estructura que está más lejos está más lejos?
¿Cuál estructura? ¿A cuál estructura se
Which one are you referring to?
The one, so if you're, can you see the picture?
¿No está?
The one on the bottom. South, but, I mean, bottom.
¿Dónde dice sur?
¿Sur será este?
Is anything, why did you put it there instead of where you put the top one?
Pregúntale a cuál.
That one on the left.
That one on the left?
Sure, yes.
¿Por qué la puso ahí?
Yeah, this is the storage.
Yeah, that's the storage.
But the one on the right is also storage, correct?
Pero la que está al lado derecho también es un storage, ¿correcto?
¿Cuál? Acá, new storage.
This one? Póngale a ella para que ella le diga a
Is it,
usted.
there are two
¿Aquí?
sheds?
Sí, new and finished storage and new
This one,
storage. Sí,
right here,
sí,
this one.
esta.
No entiendo lo que me quieren preguntar.
I don't know exactly what you're asking
Is
me.
there one shed or two sheds?
¿Usted tiene un lugar de almacenamiento o dos?
Esto es uno.
One.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that's where I'm,
All right.
okay.
Ya, eso es uno.
Yeah, that's one.
I mean,
The plan that they showed us is two buildings with separate doors.
El plan que nos mostraron es un edificio con dos puertas separadas.
Is that not accurate?
Cuando se revisó en la ciudad de Tampa el site plan,
When the city of Tampa reviewed the plan,
el señor Franklin me dijo que había que corregir ese site plan porque tenía dificultades. Pero me sugirió que aplicara primero para el variance y después se hiciera las modificaciones del site plan.
oh, so Mr. Franklin told me that there were issues with the site plan that need to be corrected, but he suggested that even though there were some difficulties with the site plan, he suggested that I first come to petition for the variance and then we went back to make the corrections to the site plan.
Que esperara la decisión del
That
variance
it was-
para hacer los cambios en el site plan.
Can staff
said
speak
to
to
wait
this?
for the, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
To wait
I
for
just feel
the-
like we're going around. Can I speak to the site plan, to the drawing?
yeah, that would be great if you could maybe pull up the picture of the two sheds.
So it is one building, but they're connected by this, I don't want to call it a breezeway, but there is a solid, concrete part, that's kind of like a passageway that connects these two. Sure,
And I have a second question. Is it on a foundation?
it is on a foundation. And they do have, it's one contiguous roof, so the roof is it's one roof that connects the entire thing, so it's still.
Thank you. That
it's one
explains
structure.
it.
Oh, ya. Oh, por eso te estoy contestando. Ya entendí.
Okay, any other questions? All right, then you have 3 minutes for additional information you want to share with us, rebuttal, anything along those lines.
Si hay algo más que quiera decir, díganos, si no, pues vamos a tomar la decisión.
Es todo.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Muy bien.
Well, then I will now close the public hearing and open it up for a motion.
Vamos a una moción, o sea, un pedimento para que ellos dialoguen sobre su petición. Y no nos metemos ahí a hablar, simplemente escuchamos.
I just had a comment about this.
Comentarios sobre esto.
In that this building is on a corner lot, and a normal side setback for a storage unit would be 3 feet. I'm inclined to approve this based on that, because it's an unusual shape.
But when I asked her if she could move it 3 feet or make it 3 feet smaller, she said she could.
But as we saw, that might prove difficult because it's on a foundation.
That's irrelevant. because-
Simone Savino, Assistant City Attorney. I just want to remind the board, any decisions made should be based on substantial competent evidence that was provided to you or already enclosed in the record for this, the application. So just as, just base it on what has been provided to you or has been provided via discussion.
Okay.
Just for clarification, what I understood her to say was, yeah, I'll comply with whatever it is that you're doing. We're here to ask you if we can keep it the way it is, but if you decide we need to move it, we'll make the modifications.
Yeah, I understood that way as well, but I didn't hear any hardship as to why you couldn't move it either, even though you asked. So that's my point.
¿Alguien tiene una moción que quiere presentarlo en este caso? ¿O tenemos que tratar?
I can attempt one.
Bueno, yo puedo dar una moción.
I move the variance request for case VRB 2218 for the property located at 1701 North Alexander Road for a reduction in the side yard from 7 feet to 3.7 feet for an existing accessory structure with encroachment eaves and gutters be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty. When considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the part of the building that overlaps the setback still has room that it could be moved closer to the house, maintain the same size, and fit in the setback, and maintain building separation. So there does not seem to be a hardship for the construction of this building, just the location of it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Okay, your petition is denied. You have 14 days if you would like to appeal it. Otherwise, you can work with the city to finalize your permits.
De todas maneras, tienen que trabajar con la ciudad para hacer las revisiones necesarias y acuerdos.
Okay. Okay, gracias.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that brings us to BRB 2205.
So do you have your documents? Have you been sworn in? Yes. Okay. All right, so the next case before the board this evening is VRB 2205. This was heard at the January VRB, and they were requested to return with additional evidence, which they confirmed that they do have at this point. The board had requested that they come back with the survey, and staff, Stephen Eister had requested that they provide a tree survey as well. But I would go over the details of the case. They have not presented the additional documents to staff, so this would be seeing it for the first time as well. The property owners are Brad and Charmaine Van Horn. The property is addressed at 4622 West Bay Villa Avenue. This is zoned as RS60. The variance request is to reduce the rear yard setback and the side yard setback for a pool enclosure. This would be from 5 feet to 3.3 feet and 2 inches, 3 feet 2 inches on the rear, and from 5 feet to 4 inches on the side. The code section in reference is section 27-290 that addresses the setbacks for screen enclosures. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It's an interior lot in the South Tampa Planning District. This is the previous site plan that the applicant had provided, showing the variance request to the side and to the rear. And this is again for a pool enclosure. And then they provided plans for this proposed structure. So before I hand it over to the applicant, the board is made aware that section 27-80 is what the criteria that you have to consider in the approval of any variance request. Staff will be available if you have any questions. I'm gonna put this on the, and I'll just add that they did notify staff that they got the documents today, so if they were able to provide it beforehand, I'm sure that they would have, but they didn't receive it from their engineers until today, so.
All right, come on up, state your names, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn for us, please.
Okay, my name is Brad Van Horn. I live at 4622 West Bay Villa Ave, Tampa, Florida, 33611, and I've been sworn in.
My name is Charmaine Van Horn. I live at 4622 West Bay Villa Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33611, and I've been sworn in as well.
Terrific. You have 10 minutes to explain to us the hardships and show us your brand spanking new survey document.
Do I need to give them to?
Well, when you're done, we'll get.
Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to show you guys is that upside down?
Yep. Flip it around. There you go.
Okay, this is the original survey that showed the pool that we did not have the last time we were here in January, and tried our hardest to explain the angle of the pool. Based on recommendations that Mr. Pastor gave us, we had the company come back out and redo the design of the pool. I'll try to put it backwards again. And we were able to bring the pool enclosure structure itself in to meet the guidelines. We were waiting on the engineer to verify the redesign of the pool enclosure. We basically brought it in, and you guys all found out, we got this today, and we tried to get the pool, the engineer to come with us tonight in case you had any questions about the drawing, and to make sure that it met the guidelines that a variance was not required. I don't know if you were able to print that email out or not.
I did.
It kind of explains the technical.
Well, guys, I mean, it looks like from this drawing that you're well within setbacks with this plan.
Right.
Which means you don't, if you want to build it this way, you don't have to come here, and we don't have to have this case, and you could probably ask the city for a refund on your, I'm serious, I think you can ask for a refund.
We were coming prepared to ask for another continuance until this email showed up,
Yeah.
and we were like, we're already here, we felt it was too late to cancel, and we wanted to just make sure that
Yeah,
we were within the proper guidelines.
yeah, that was probably smart, but, I mean, we can't validate these dimensions, your surveyor and engineer have to, but if the surveyor and the engineer agree that you are within 5 feet on both sides, then you don't need a variance.
Okay. And this is just the, that's right here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And this is just, what we're showing you here is this top part where it says they're not available to come tonight, and this was just their,
Yeah, it says all setbacks are over the 5-foot minimum.
yeah. Like I said, we just wanted to make sure we were good. to
Because
move
you
forward.
can, within the code, you can build up to the 5 feet.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
You can build your pool enclosure.
But I did want to thank you for the recommendations that you gave us the last time we were here. And
I didn't recommend anything. I was just asked you to talk to your engineers. Do we have to do anything to close this?
Simone Savino, Legal Department. I'm assuming the case is being withdrawn, so that does need to be noted for the record.
Okay, so, how should we do that? Should we just ask the applicant if they're withdrawing their case since they don't need to meet, they already meet setbacks?
Correct, it just needs to be confirmed that the application's gonna be withdrawn and that the case would meet setbacks and that the matter could be closed.
All right, well, let's do it this way then. I think what our legal staff has just recommended is that assuming everything is accurate on your survey and that you are able to build within the setbacks, are you okay with withdrawing that case, withdrawing your application, considering you don't need a variance to do what you're asking to do on that design?
yes, we were asking to withdraw.
Terrific. All right, well then, if anything else is needed, you can work with city staff, but otherwise, have a great night.
All right, thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you so
do
much
the
for your
same.
time.
Thank you.
Yes, please, if you could provide the new survey. Do you have copies of it or? Okay, all right. And I would upload that to your record, even though of course it's being closed at this point, so I don't think you need it, but you have it. Yeah, we just have it for the record.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
All right.
Well, that was easy. Okay, is the applicant here for 2210? I'm just confirming, do we have the applicant here for BRB 22-10?
Let me request.
3306 West Van Buren Drive? Is that,
I'm here as a resident to speak about it, but I'm not the applicant.
okay. Probably need the applicant first.
Do we have another roof maker?
Yeah, so she's gonna check, I guess. I just figured before Jane started presenting.
While they are sending up the applicant, we received,
No, that's okay. Are you here for VRB 22-10?
Yes.
Okay, all right, take a seat for a moment, and we'll get to you in just a sec. We're gonna hear about your case. Okay. What's that? That looks. Yeah. Okay. Should we do the swear in first, or do you want to do the? Yeah. All right, let's do the swear in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. May I have a seat?
All right, the next case before the board this evening is VRB 2210. This is addressed at 3306 West Van Buren Drive. The property owner is Zoro Properties Incorporated. And this request is to remove 2 grand trees for the construction of a new single-family residence. The property is zoned RS60, residential single family, and the code section in reference is section 27-284.2.5, which requires that a variance is required for permission to remove a grand tree. At this point, staff would like to put on record that the variance criteria in the staff report is incorrect. It should be section 27-284. It is reading section 27-80. So I would leave up the criteria at the end of my presentation. This is an aerial showing the subject property in the South Tampa Planning District of the City of Tampa. It is an interior lot. The applicant has provided what would be their proposed site plan, taking out this tree right here and this second grand tree in order to construct a new single-family residence. As required by the variance application, they have provided alternative site plans as well. This is the first alternative site plan that the applicant has provided, showing a potential reconfiguration in order to save the trees. This is the second alternative site plan that they provided as well. And in the determination of the request to remove grand trees, the board shall consider section 27-284.2.5 and the criteria therein for the approval to remove grand trees. Natural Resources reviewed this and found it consistent. Transportation reviewed and found it consistent. Right-of-way reviewed and found it consistent as well. And if there are any questions, Stephen will be available for any.
Ms. Madhu, I did want to clarify the issue of the code criteria that's provided. So I see in the application at the top, it's referencing 27-284.2.5. And then the criteria for the variance review board consideration has 27-80 there, and then the applicant completed the application with 27-80 of the city code. Did the applicant have the correct criteria? Was the applicant given the correct criteria? Just want to make sure that the application process gave them.
Yes, they were provided with the correct criteria.
Okay, all right. It just so happens that this is what they completed, but they had.
And they did provide that. It just didn't make it in time before I sent it in the staff report, but they did provide that alternative exhibit A1 that they are required to fill, so they did provide that to staff, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, applicant, if you would, please come on up, state your name, your address, and confirm for us that you have been sworn in.
Yes, that's Thomas Hall. The address is 14034 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33613, and I have been sworn in.
Awesome. You have 10 minutes to explain to us the criteria for the removal of the trees.
Well, basically, the tree sits almost dead center of the property. The current home is so impacted that it's been condemned. It's had squatters in the neighborhood living in the home, and the police have had to been called out. So there's no way to fix the current house, especially since it's been condemned. So if you take the house down, there's no other place to put a home except right on top of the root structure of the tree. And if you did that, the tree then becomes hazardous. Trying to look at the 3 or 4 different ways to put the tree on the property, it always impacts the tree very negatively. So when you look at it, there's just no way to salvage the Quercus virginiana or the live oak. The laurel oak on the right-hand side is in a hazard shape as it is, and soon as somebody move into the home, that tree would then be hazardous because it's gonna, and dangerous because it's gonna fall on the home that you just built. So that's the request to remove those 2 trees.
Does that complete your presentation this evening?
Yes, sir. It's pretty simple.
Terrific. I know it sounds like there's some folks, or at least one person here to speak this evening on this petition. Is there someone here to speak on this petition? Yes. All right. Let's give her a moment then, if that completes your presentation, to come on up and speak. State your name, your address, confirm that you've been sworn, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, my name is Anna Cremmy. My address is 3310 West Van Buren Street in Tampa, Florida, 33611. Is it my time start?
And you've been sworn.
Oh, I have been sworn.
Terrific. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
I live 2 doors from the property that we're discussing. And I would actually first like to start by thanking you, the board. You do important work for the city of Tampa, and as a resident, I appreciate your service. I also would like to thank Zorro Properties and Thomas Hall, because their inclusion of an alternate plan that saves the grand trees on the property shows that they have respect for their neighbors, and it tells me that they care about our beautiful tree canopy. Tampa has a time-honored history of protecting its trees. Our urban forest is world-renowned and estimated to provide more than $1 billion in compensatory value to the city when accounting for pollution removal, carbon storage, and energy conservation. Trees are also a vital part of our ecosystem. As a keystone species, oaks host more than 400 varieties of pollinators and provide food and shelter for countless birds and animals. But it isn't just wildlife who benefit. In our corner of Interbay, we live in the approach zone of MacDill Air Force Base. Our neighborhood trees not only clean the air, but also provide crucial noise abatement as the planes fly very low over our homes. The increased noise pollution that would result from a reduction in our tree canopy would decrease our quality of life significantly. Tree removal request TRE 2255 was submitted in October 2021 by the previous property owner. The request claimed that the grand tree on the north side of the property was, quote, dead, diseased, damaged. It is worth noting that the city's tree evaluation report ranked the tree as B6 and stated that, quote, if the tree is removed due to damage to the home cannot be demoed for 2 years. I have a copy of that if anyone would like to see it. The permit request was then closed, and the application for variance that we are discussing today was submitted in November 2021 on behalf of the previous owner of the property. Zorro Properties purchased the home in December of 2021 and immediately submitted a statement of hardship, citing that the tree was, quote, damaging the structure and the owner was losing money and not able to build or sell the property. Those statements are ludicrous because Zorro purchased the property knowing that the house was condemned and that the tree was protected. If they did not know, they should have known. This is not a case of an existing homeowner wishing to expand his home or abate a problem. It is a case in which the trees can be accommodated. There's evidence of this by the inclusion of Site Plan Alternate 1, which is included with the variance request. These trees are 100 years old. They cannot be replaced in this generation. They are beloved members of our community, and they deserve to live. I am not alone in this sentiment. I have here a petition signed by 24 of my neighbors who live within an 1/8 of a mile of the home. I gathered these signatures in just a few hours. With more time, I could have easily gathered 100 signatures. I say this because people are busy. The fact that they don't show up at these meetings, it doesn't mean that they don't care. They want to conserve our trees.
Your time is up, but I'll give you another 30 seconds if you can wrap up.
How do we lose our canopy? We lose our canopy one tree at a time, one request for variance at a time. And if we lose our tree canopy, we lose it for the rest of our lives. You are in a position to save these trees. Please approve Site Plan Alternate 1 and disapprove the proposed site plan and Site Plan Alternate 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to submit the,
Yeah, I think we saw that already, and yes, I think it's already been submitted, but if there's anything additional that you would like to submit, you can give that to staff.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this petition? All right, seeing none, let's open it up for board questions. Does the board have any questions for the petitioner, for anyone else who spoke, or for staff?
I have a question for Mr. Eister. In our packet, we have a letter from Thomas A. Hall, and it looks like he was an arborist that assessed one tree. I'm not sure what tree this is. It's unclear based on the plan, and probably DBH has changed a lot from surveys and evaluation. Do you find this consistent with what you saw in your rating system on?
So Stephen Eister with Natural Resources. With Thomas's report, the information is all valid. The only thing I looked at is the house is already condemned. There is no uncondemning it, I guess, at this point. So I took that out of the equation, as I think he factored it into the equation. And I think that's where a big part of the discrepancy lies for our ratings. But I don't disbelieve any of the information he put in the report.
Can you explain a little bit more, like how it's related to the house being condemned?
Yeah, so in
Because
the,
it's close
in the
by,
front of
or-
the house, it looks like there was some foundation damage there where the tree did adjust things and shift things.
Okay.
But with the house being demoed, I think it's a good time to kind of redesign and.
And this tree, that was the one in the center of the property, the
Correct.
twin 32-inch oak, according to our plans. Okay,
Yep.
just getting it straight. Thanks.
Yep.
And I had another question about the other tree. What was your code on that? What was your?
Yeah, so the other tree I think we're talking about, it's a split trunk or double trunk. I think it's a live oak. I don't think it's a laurel oak. It's in preservation quality, which is why it's, if you look at the chart or the report I gave you guys, I don't know if you got this in the staff report. Well, I'll pass that around. I have it as a C7, which is preservation quality. It should be monitored. The original site plan showed the house. It showed the tree being saved on the proposed plan, but it's only like 4 feet away. So we made them add that to the request because there was no way it would be able to handle those impacts. And then I'll give this to you guys so you can read through it.
I think that is part of the, I think it's the last piece of the, is it?
It should.
Should be the last page of your document.
I've got one more question for staff. If nothing was to happen and the house was to remain, and this tree was continued to grow through the pipes and the sewers and the floors, is that gonna hurt the tree in the future? Or is it just gonna thrive and just eat the house?
I think it's just gonna basically kind of stay how it is. As these live oaks get more mature, their growth rate slows down. So the house will probably kind of stay in its condemned state.
And would the demolition and removing of all those pipes that are intertwined with the
So it would be
roots and structures that are intertwined with the
Yes.
foundations, would that be harmful to the tree?
So during the demo phase, that section of the tree, that 20-foot, whatever falls within the protective radius, will have to be demoed by hand. So they can rip down the main structure, but then the footers and the stuff below ground will have to be hand demoed. And that's pretty standard for any time there's a tree near an old foundation. We require that to be hand demoed.
I'm not sure, Steve, if this is for you or this is for Jane, but let's see, the woman who came up and spoke in opposition to this variance mentioned that there was a 2-year no build period Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for any grand tree removal for construction damage, like say if I have a house, I'm living in it, I have a tree causing foundation issues, you can remove it, no variance is required, but then you have a 2-year kind of hold on your property where you can't do any additions or do anything where, say that tree was. You're like, oh, I have a tree in the backyard, it's causing me problems, let's just take that out and I'll put a big addition on the back. It kind of prevents that from happening.
But if the house were demolished and the tree were removed, that 2-year hold period would not apply?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board for, well, you'll get rebuttal time, so if there's more you want to say, that's your opportunity. But just before we do that, any other questions? No other questions. All right, applicant, you have 3 minutes to say whatever you want, to rebut anything that was said, to just tell us more information, or to respond to any of the questions that were asked.
I agree. I'm an arborist for a reason, because I want to save trees. And then there's trees, according to HB 1159, which are impeding the development of somebody's property who has purchased it and has a right to do something with their property besides let it sit there. The way the tree is currently situated, you have to be 20 to 24 feet off the foundation, so you have to grant a variance to be inside of the root zone. And because in our area, the root zone for a tree that size is only going to be 24 inches deep, but it's going to be wide. Once you start cutting those roots, with a tree that's only 24 inches in the ground with that much canopy, it's going to be unstable. That's from Dr. Edward Gilman at the University of Florida. That's not me speaking. That's somebody with way more experience than me. So, and on the other side, the other tree is the same thing. Once you start cutting into the root zone, which you want to be 4 feet off according to that building plan, that tree is not going to be stable because it's going to lose a significant portion of its root. Now, in both things, the city has already compensated by replacing it with type 1, Florida #1 grade shade trees. So even though this tree will cease, new trees will be added, and the property can have the proper use, which is not sit open right now, which has had squatters, and you can see all the code violations, and the police have been called out. You take that element out of that neighborhood. And as much as I think I love trees, I just don't see how you can keep the tree and do what you want without it being unstable in the future. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can I just say that I live 2 doors
No,
down?
I'm sorry.
And there have never been squatters in the house?
I'm sorry, Angie. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or discussion from the board.
I'm ready for a motion.
Okay. If you would like to make one.
And just to clarify, it is section 23.280 that has,
No, it is
84.
It is the 27-284.
Okay, thank you. I move for an approval with some conditions. So I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-10 located at 3306 West Van Buren Drive, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing, for removal of 2 grand trees with the following conditions. The grand tree in the center of the property may be removed, with the one on the west side remain, because it appears in site plan alternate 1 and 2 that you can build a structure and it be located a decent distance away from the root zone, not impacting the new housing structure that'll be built. So again, 1 tree being removed, the other one remaining. With that said, variance as conditioned to be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence and the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth specifically in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that this tree will be impacted upon new construction and is also in a declined state.
So I think, and I'm going to turn to legal for this, but I think what we need to do is not have that with conditions, but I think you would want to bifurcate and approve the removal of one of the trees and deny the removal of the second tree.
So is that 2 motions then?
I think that would be 2 motions, so is that what legal would recommend on that?
Simone Savino, Assistant City Attorney. Yes, I would, because even though it's requested as one variance, you're gonna bifurcate it because you're turning it into 2 separate motions essentially, and based on what it sounds like you're proposing. So I would recommend that, that way each is specific to the tree and be as clear as possible when labeling what you're approving or motioning to approve versus motioning to deny. Based on the tree in the site plan, if that makes sense.
So you would deny
Well,
half and
recommend-
approve half in each.
Yeah, so what
Trying to figure
right,
out how
so
that
if that's the motion you would like to make, what you want to do is you want to move to approve it as to the removal of the north, I guess that would be a 32-inch oak, and then you would move to deny it as to the west, which is a 32-inch oak, if that is what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to do it, I'm just not quite sure where you say it at the end?
Use number 5 and 6.
Yeah, the tree numbers.
Not 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Right.
You could also use, well, yeah, I guess that's the best, west and north.
You would just clarify where it says address for that's where you clarify.
I'm just gonna try it.
Give it a shot.
So this will be approval of tree removal. Move that the variance request for case VRB 22-10 for property located at 3306 West Van Buren Drive be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 F4 of the city code for granting tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record showed
And be specific to the site plan, because there's 3
yes.
site plans. Okay.
So for site plan, well, so this is the tree that is approved to be removed would be the one in the center of the property, the twin 32-inch oak depicted, I guess would be removed in the proposed plan and the site plan alternate 1. Because the tree is already in decline with its situation already close to an existing home. And with new construction will be further damaged at the end.
Okay.
Did that
So
work?
we have a motion to remove the 32-inch oak towards the north side of the property. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to remove that tree. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right. So that motion passes 5 to 1.
All right.
All right, now you've got a motion to deny the removal of the second tree.
Correct.
Give that one shot.
So I move that the variance request for case VRB 2210 for the property located at 3306 West Van Buren Drive for removal of a grand tree be denied due to the failure of the petitioner to meet the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors for determining reasonable use as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 .2.5 F4 of the City Code for granting tree removal, specifically that with alternate plan 1 and 2, this new construction of a house can be set back far enough that it will not impact the tree.
Okay, you have a motion to deny the removal of the 32-inch oak to the west of the property.
And specific to site plan, did you say which site plan? I just want to confirm.
I said specific to site plan alternate 1 and 2.
Okay. So is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second on the denial. All those in favor of the denial say aye. All right. All those opposed? All right. That motion to deny passes 4-2. 4-3. 4-2. Right. Okay. Count. I was counting correctly first. Okay. If there is any portion of what has been decided tonight that you would like to appeal, or that anyone would like to appeal, there's a 14-day appeals process from the time the decision is issued. Have a great evening.
Jane Madu Development Coordination. The next case before the board is VRB 21-121. This is addressed at 5402 Bayshore Boulevard. The property owners are Amy Hernandez and Philip Ochoa. This is zoned RS60, residential single family, and the variance request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet, and this is for an existing addition to a single family residence. This is an after-the-fact permit as well. The code section in reference is section 27-156 that stipulates the setback requirements for the RS60 district with 25 feet in the front, 20 feet in the rear, 7 on the sides, and 7 for the corner. This is an aerial showing the subject property. This is a corner lot along Bayshore Boulevard. And this is a site plan that the applicant has provided showing the existing home with the section of work highlighted in the blue hatch, showing that addition to the property. And these are pictures that the applicant has provided showing the existing porch as added to their single-family residence. Natural Resources reviewed this and found it consistent. Transportation review was not required. Right-of-way also reviewed and found this consistent. In the determination of the variance request before the board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval of a variance request, and staff will be available if there are any questions.
I just want to make sure, I don't think the applicant's been sworn.
I'm sorry?
Applicant, I think, needs to be sworn.
Okay, swearing in.
Please raise your right hand.
If there's anyone else in the audience who hasn't been sworn and who needs to be sworn, let's go ahead and stand up and get you sworn in now, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may have a seat. You can stand.
Okay, applicants, state your name your address, and even though we just saw you get sworn in, please state for the record that you've been sworn.
I'm Amy Hernandez. I'm one of the property owners. My address is 5402 Bayshore Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33611, and I was previously sworn in.
Terrific.
Hi, I'm Monica Johnson. I am attorney for the homeowners, and I have been sworn in.
Awesome. All right. You have 10 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you.
So basically, we wanted to do an addition to our house just to provide some roofing structure for our daughter to play outside. We did have a covered lanai, but we live in a flood zone, so it's pretty elevated. There's a pretty significant step off. So, sorry.
Just indicating that you should speak towards the microphone.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know that. So before we even built the structure, we were looking online just to find out if I needed a permit. And I was looking at the Code of Ordinances. If you look at Section 5, 105.2E, it said if it was less than 500 square feet or less, we didn't need, it was exempt from permit. So I just called the City of Tampa's permits office just to verify all that was true, and they said as long as it was less than 500 square feet, we were okay. So I didn't know that I needed a building permit before we built it, and the builders that we got never told us we needed a permit. So we went ahead and built the structure, and as I was applying for the building permit, that's when they told me that I needed to do a variance, and that's why I'm here. It is where it is because it's furthest away from the main streets. We live off Bayshore, so it's a pretty busy road. We wanted just something in the backyard that would protect my daughter from the sun and the rain, and it's the only place in the property that it would fit. We didn't want it too close to the other street, so it's right there in the back away from the main street. It doesn't seem to be an eyesore. It doesn't seem to bother the direct neighbors that it affects in their yards. I also thought I was okay because I have seen neighbors that also have covered structures and covered pathways in our neighborhood. So I don't see how any issues with the actual building itself.
Okay. Is there anything that you wanted to tell us?
No, I was just here for support. She, knows the facts better than me as far as, how far back this dates and the issues that they've had along the way to finally get here for a hearing. So, I made sure everything was done properly so they could be heard today. And yeah, I mean, she pretty much covered it as far as the hardship goes. This is the only place on the property where they could put any sort of covered patio if they were adding a covered patio. It's a pretty small yard. I think the sides are even smaller than the back area, but it is directly behind the house, so you can't see it from the front street. It is a very busy street, and I know that they have checked with all of their neighbors surrounding the property, and nobody seems to have an issue with it. On the contrary, they like it. They've come over to enjoy it.
Doesn't affect the actual build. My actual house has it doesn't affect the actual structure of it. So.
Okay. Does that complete your presentation this evening?
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition this evening? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up for board questions. Does anyone on the board have a question?
Yeah, so why did you go and apply for a permit, after it was constructed? Because you showed us that code section. So why?
Yes, and then afterwards, one of my neighbors said that I needed a permit for it, and he called the city, and code enforcement came out and said, yes, you need a permit for that. So I went to the building permit hearing, and then they told me I needed to apply for the variance.
And that neighbor has since sold his house and moved.
I assume, and I guess I'll ask this as a question, are you aware that there is a letter in opposition in our packet that had been submitted to the city? You said that you had spoken to all the neighbors. I assume that's the neighbor who's moved that you were referencing.
And there was another neighbor that also, I guess, had more of an issue of the actual process. He didn't have anything against the actual structure itself. He had an issue with how I notified the neighbors
about the hearing.
Back in October, it was actually Halloween, he saw my sign, I guess, like the wording had melted away from the rain, and he came by and knocked on the door and brought the signs over and was complaining that the dates and the times had all washed off. So I didn't give a full month before the hearing, so that's why I've had some issues coming before you guys tonight.
But do you know if the letter's from him or from the one behind you that moved?
It's from
The letter is from George Yaskiel.
I think that was the owner behind her.
That was the
yeah.
one who told me that I needed to get the permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's no longer living there.
Yeah, he moved away about a month ago, capitalizing on the market.
All right. Were there any other questions from board members? All right. Seeing none, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you should choose to use it.
Okay.
No rebuttal.
Okay. All right. Well, with that then, I will close the public hearing and I will open it up for a motion from board members or discussion if necessary.
I'll make a motion. I move that the variance request for case VRB 21-121 for property located at 5402 Bayshore Boulevard be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction of the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet with an encouragement for eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the hardships did not result from the actions of that the hardships are unique to the property and that the structure that is currently seated on the property is in a location that prohibits construction of a covered patio in any location other than where the subject patio was constructed, and the variance, if granted, won't substantially interfere with the health, safety, or welfare of others. None of the applicant has testified that she's spoken with all of the neighbors, and the neighbors with objections no longer live there, and other neighbors are, approve of this construction.
We have a motion to approve by Ms. Decker. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Murphy. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right, your application passes 4-2. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, VRB 22-21.
January Development Coordination. The next case before the board this evening is VRB 2221. This is addressed at 1907 Bougainvillea Avenue. The property owner is Annette Eberhardt, and this is zoned RS50, residential single family. The variance request is to reduce the front yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet in order to accommodate an existing attached 2-car carport. The code section in reference is section 27-156 that stipulates the setback requirements for the RS50 zoning district as 20 feet in the front, 20 feet on the rear, and 7 feet on the sides. This is an aerial showing the subject property. It is an interior lot. And this is an overall site plan provided by the applicant showing the existing house and the carport in front of the home. And this is an up-close view of that carport and what the request is before the board this evening. Natural Resources reviewed this and found it consistent with conditions. Transportation reviewed it and found it inconsistent. Their they did amend their inconsistent comment because she provided a full site plan. That was one of their comments, that the natural resources and right-of-way found it inconsistent pending a full site plan review. She provided that. As of today, transportation found them consistent with the comments that they need to show the paving for the residents, for the 2 parking spaces need to be paved, and the apron of the driveway needs to be updated per City of Tampa right-of-way requirements. Right-of-way has not reviewed the full site plan yet. So in the determination of the request before the board this evening, the board shall consider section 27-80, the criteria for the approval of a variance request. And I will be available if there are any questions from the board.
Okay, the applicant, you've been sworn?
Yes.
Okay, come on up, state your name, your address, and then just confirm that for the record for us.
I think it's already in there.
If, do you want me to show it up, pull it up?
Oh, you can, yeah. My name is Annette Eberhardt. I reside at 1907 East Bougainvillea Avenue, and I have been sworn.
Perfect, all right, you have 10 minutes to explain to us your hardships and anything else.
Okay, so I purchased my home back in 2001. It was built in 1961. The structure didn't have a carport. I'm currently a licensed family child care home provider, where I service families and children 24 hours, 7 days a week. So the structure was put in place to provide shelter when the parents are dropping the children off. Like the weather like today, I have an infant that just started this week, and a 1-year-old as well, 2 siblings. And so this is convenient for the parents when they're dropping the children off. They don't have to worry about the weather, the conditions, whether it's hot, whether it's raining. Here in Tampa, Florida, when I had the carport built, I didn't know that I needed to get the permit and everything. The person that did it told me it was built according to code. So the reason I had it put on was, like I said, to be able to better service the clients that I service. That's it.
Okay, and I understand you're explaining the purpose as it relates to the use of the property.
Mm-hmm.
What we're intended to consider is the hardships as defined by Code Section 27-80. So if there's any portion that you want to talk about in that, now's your opportunity to do that. And that way we can understand what you're asking for, how it relates to the property itself, why this needs to be where it is, things of that nature.
Well, like I said, the home is older. It's an older home, and it didn't have an additional carport or shelter for cars to park. As far as the setbacks and things like that, I'm really not, informed on it. I know that I was told, the city came out, one of my neighbors filed a complaint that the carport was there. It has been there since 2014, and like I said, I didn't know that it was an issue. What I found out was that it was something going on in the neighborhood where everybody was calling on everybody because somebody got called on. So this is the reason why, one of the reasons why I'm here today.
Okay. All right, does that complete your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak about this petition? All right, come on up.
He needs to be sworn in.
Of course he does. Anyone else in the audience who needs to be sworn? If you plan on speaking and haven't been sworn, stand up now.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. If you would please state your name, your address, and confirm that you've been sworn in, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Joel Alva G. I reside at 1911 East Bougainvillea Avenue, and I've been sworn in. I reside 2 houses over from Mrs. L, from the client here, and she has a double carport on our property, and she has a nursery on our home, and I agree that she should have that carport because she has these children that come and the parents pick up their children, and it's like raining today, so infants or children go there, they can pick up their children, and the children don't get wet. And it's a convenience for the parents to drop their children off. And I concur that she should have, I support the variance for this neighbor. And I've had a carport there myself, there were my parents at 1911. I took over the property, and someone did complain on me, and my parents had that carport over 25 years, and basically I had to take it down. So I don't, but I support and that she should have that carport there for that particular reason. And she's been there, and she's been, the children walk by my property every morning, and it's really good for her to have that there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask, but I don't see anybody, but is there anybody else who would like to speak about this petition this evening? Seeing none, are there any questions by the board members for the applicant or anyone else? Mr. Pastor.
Ms. Everhart, did you say that you had this built?
I had a company that did it for me, and he told me everything was done according to code.
Yeah. It was an actual business of some sort?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't heard you mention what the character of the immediate neighborhood is in regards to front yard carports. Are there others on your street or in your area, or are you the only one?
There are a couple of others on my street, yes.
On the street that you're on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, like Yoel said, he had one, so he had to take it down.
Does your house have a garage?
No, no garage on it.
And you said there's no ability to build a garage, right, because of the size and age of the home?
Right.
Okay.
And you don't have any alley access? You don't have an alley?
No.
Would you be agreeable to us having a condition in there that this will always stay a carport and never be enclosed or air conditioned?
Absolutely.
Very good.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Ms. Eberhardt, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you have anything else you need to say.
I don't.
Okay, well, if you have nothing else, then we will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion from the board.
I'll make a run at it. Or if anybody has any questions before I make a motion? No discussion? All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 22-21 located at 1907 Bougainvillea Ave, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction of front yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet with the following conditions: that the existing carport remain a carport, never be enclosed, and never be air conditioned. That said variance as condition to be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in 27-80 of the city's code. Specifically, that it was an older home built in 1961 with no garage. It also increases the safety and well-being of the inhabitant and the homeowner, and that it is in harmony with the surrounding neighborhoods.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, Ms. Murphy, second by Ms. Becker. Thank you all. Have a good night. One more. Do we have an applicant for 22-28? Maybe? Is there an applicant here for 22-28?
No, sir. Our last applicant is a no-show, so I was just trying to confer with legal what the appropriate action would be.
All right, and what did legal recommend for that?
Simone Savino, Assistant City Attorney. If the applicant is not here, they are required to produce the burden that you would weigh the application on. So either this, I mean, it just doesn't go forward tonight.
Well, we understand that. So traditionally, we have two options. We can either continue it, or it's been recommended against simply denying them.
Sure.
So,
But do we have to continue, or is it automatic?
that's the question, is.
So I can check your rules real quick, but I also just want to confirm, did they confirm they were going to be present tonight? You had no notice from them previously?
Yeah, I had no notice that they were not
This is
going
a
to be
first
here.
missed, they first time they were here and just didn't show?
Yeah, first
Okay.
time.
So,
Let's, just for ease of moving forward, how about I make a motion to continue VRB 22-28 to the next available hearing date, which.
Are you allowed to make a motion?
Maybe. Why don't you make the motion?
I don't want to continue it.
Would anyone else like to make a motion to continue it?
I'll make a motion that we
Alright.
continue VRB 22-28 for property located at 1611 South Arawana Avenue to the next available,
To the March, what's the
March
date of that one?
the March 8th, 2022 meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. All those in favor of continuance, say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank goodness. All right,
Well, that was our last case for the evening.
Yes, it
I thank the
was.
board for their time.
they just got sick of waiting. That was a problem.
This is one of the fastest. We've never gotten through 9 this fast ever.
All right, well, we are always setting records here. Relatively soon, somebody else is going to take this.